Previously on the Rod Pedersen Show.
The thing that is most misunderstood about sports radio is its function. It's not that you're supposed to look. There are shifts, there are day parts where if you want to get into the minutia, if you want to talk about cycling and what they do on special teams and all the other things that go into it, all the details that go into being an NHL team, there are shifts for that. There are hours of that. That's not what a morning show does. That's what a morning show isn't supposed to. I'm supposed to call someone or bring the coach on who will explain those moves. I bring the general manager on. I can bring on one of the players. This is what hosting a morning show does. I'm hard pressed to think that going to work for a job that you hate, for a boss who sucks, for you getting yelled at every day and maybe not getting the money that's worth it to you. Maybe you have a hard day where you're outside every day. Hey, there's a lot of people in Western Canada that listen to that show that weren't just from Calgary. They were also from Saskatchewan. And these guys would be out working the fields and so on. They wanted to get some laughs in with a little bit of the sports. So what you want to do is be an entertaining guy, and hopefully you have the chops to actually do that. And then on the other side, you call someone who can explain all those things better than I can, better than any probably morning guy can, because there's a reason why they're a morning guy, because they were probably, for the most part, in broadcast and maybe not a great athlete. Look, my background is weird. It's different. I played at a very high level of sports, but I also started doing stand-up when I was in grade 12. Freak and weird. I was a goalie and a drummer. All the weird stuff that goes into this brain where I hear the voices. I'm sitting there looking at a football game. All of a sudden, I hear Peyton Manning going, what he should have done. What he should have done was you got to pull that back. You got to make them read into when you're going to play action pass. You don't just run with it, dummy. That's not RPO. This is what goes on in his head. This is what I have going on. Bob Cole,
I get it.
All kinds of stuff is going on there.
I don't even think it's weird.
Get ready for the Rod Pedersen Show.
One night in Edmonton, we were out on the town, and there was a guy by the name of Bane Norrie.
How about that?
Bane says, "Did I ever tell you guys about the night I was out with the Rolling Stones?" And I'm like, "Come on, what was Mick Jagger like?" And he's like, "Well, no, Mick Jagger and Keith Richards weren't there. It was the rest of the band." And I hit the floor. "You weren't with the Rolling Stones then, Bane."
Keith Richards and Mick Jagger are the Rolling Stones.
Exactly.
This is the Rod Pedersen Show.
That was a good time. Hello, everybody. I can't wait to get to Edmonton this weekend, as a matter of fact. We're going to talk about that later on the program today. Your favorite daytime sports talk show is on the air. Game Plus television across all 10 Canadian provinces and 31 U.S. states on Game Plus. Shout out to the crew flying the ship there. WQEE Radio in Atlanta. Got my Falcons gear on just for you. Ryan O Radio. We are Atlanta's NHL show. Of course, it's produced from the mothership, the Millennium Falcon, IKS, in Canada's Queen City, and we're also in podcast form and live streaming. Darren Moose DuPont joins us as we get ready to set sail here on episode number 1014. Did you just hear the fighter jet just go over my head? Did you hear that by chance?
No, I didn't.
Moose?
No.
Oh, man, that thing was close. I mean, felt like I was in snowbird territory again. CF-18s, you know the sound? That just went over my head here, so I hope we're not at war. Although the Florida Panthers are. Hey, coming up on the program today, I mentioned we are Atlanta's NHL show. We do have a lot of hockey talk to get to. Jamie Thomas, the Winnipeg Jets radio color commentator, longtime friend of mine, Jamie Thomas, is going to be with us. Great teeth, that guy. And Bernie Nicholls, BetRegal's NHL ambassador, our official betting partner, Bernie Nicholls, is going to be with us. Can you hit the quick six show horn, please? Jump right into, because there's so much to get to today. I actually have 10 topics written down, but then there's a couple more. But there's breaking news on this Tuesday as we go to air. Darren, we don't normally talk about golf, but this is so ground shaking. It actually caught my attention and everybody else's. I'm seeing Twitter's full of it. I'm reading from the Associated Press story. The most disruptive year in golf ended today when the PGA Tour and European Tour LIV agreed to a merger. with Saudi Arabia's golf interest creating a commercial operation designed to unify professional golf around the world. So Live Golf and PGA Tour are merging into one. As part of the deal, the sides are dropping all lawsuits involving Live Golf effective immediately, and still to be determined is how players like Brooks Koepka and Dustin Johnson, who defected to Live, can rejoin the PGA Tour after this year. Also unclear was what form the Live Golf League would take in 2024. The new entity has not yet been named. PGA Commissioner Jay Monahan said in a memo, this is where this will provide some clarity to everybody. His statement, they were going down their path, we were going down ours, and after a lot of introspection, you realize all this tension in the game is not a good thing. Actually, Monahan said that in a phone interview with the Associated Press. So I saw our good friend Andrew Hustler Pedersen from Winnipeg Sports Talk saying, how does an announcement this huge come out of nowhere? This momentum, it really did come out of nowhere. And more than any, you're the golf guy far more than me, Darren, but even I perked up. A lot of really hurtful things have been said between the competitors, between the leaders, and I wonder how they can get over that. I think this is personally a great thing. I do, but do you as the resident golf guy?
Yeah, I do. Long term, I think it's a good thing. I think there's some important things that are going to come out of this. We're going to see a path forward for the Live golfers to potentially come back and play on the PGA Tour or be reinstated or be able to play certain events. I think we're also going to see a path where the Live golfers playing in Live events will be able to earn world golf rankings. I feel like that's a potential step that will come out of this. But in the short term, there's still so much bad blood between the two leagues, and especially from golf fans that, are on either side, that I think there's still opportunity here. There was talk about a PGA Tour versus Live Golf Ryder Cup, right? Which would have been great. Let's see who's the best. Let's put them and go head to head and have a lot of hate on both sides. And the fans would have been crazy. It would have been awesome. So I hope we still get to see a few of those things. But long term, I think this will be good for the game.
I guess mergers can be a good thing, but I know just on the weekend, Phil Mickelson was taking shots at Rory McIlroy and all of his crap, quote. So it's like there's going to be a lot of fences that need to be mended here, both personally and professionally, as they move forward. From Ryan O Radio, he says, Dirty Birds, the RP show, Atlanta's NHL show. We're going to get into that talk. Stephen from North Dakota checking in. Greetings and no hallucinations from sunny 27-degree Minot, North Dakota. That's Celsius, everybody, not Fahrenheit. I understand, and I talked with Darren this morning via Zoom, and you were sweating like a hooker in church. So it's clearly you're getting the heat up there like we get year-round down here. So welcome to the party. And let's get it. Can you hit the horn again, Jordan? Are you still there? Can you hit the Quick Six show horn? Because that was the breaking news. Thank you. And now we'll get into our normal stuff. Jonathan Marchessault and Brett Howden each scored twice, and the Vegas Golden Knights crushed the visiting Florida Panthers 7-2 to grab a 2-0 lead in the best-of-7 Stanley Cup Final. Jack Eichel, who absorbed a punishing check from Matthew Tkachuk in the third, chipped in with 2 assists. Game 3 Thursday here in Sunrise. In all caps, I have written, will the series turn come Game 3? So let's drop anchor for a minute here and talk about Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final on Monday night. It wasn't a good one. I've seen from the Panthers fans and some of their staff who I follow on Twitter, they're complaining about officiating. I've seen fans say, this is the worst officiating I've seen in 30 years. I'm starting to think the refs are on the take. Stop. I'm cheering for Florida and had no issues with the officiating in Game 2 especially. Vegas is mauling them. I've talked with people from both sides, and I said to the Vegas guys, you guys look possessed. And they said, well, you can thank us losing to Washington in the 2018 Stanley Cup Final. We're still pissed off about that. They look like they're playing with that hunger. Florida, I'm afraid, is a step behind. I don't know if they can replicate that hunger or originate that hunger starting with Thursday's Game 3. I'm not saying it's over. But right now, it doesn't look like two teams in the same league. It's all Vegas. It's the highest scoring Stanley Cup Final since 1982, and Vegas is scoring all the goals. 12-4? So I don't know. I have room to discuss whether this series is going to turn from the Panthers' perspective. It has to, but I got to think they're leaving Vegas pretty demoralized.
They are. It's not just about going down 2-0. It's about how these games have gone. And it feels like the Panthers are completely unraveled, right? Here, you're not going to like this, but maybe you will because it's the Panthers. They're not in trouble till you lose at home. Isn't that the saying?
Stop it.
So maybe the Panthers,
oh my God.
Maybe they're not in trouble yet. But we talked about this before, right? When you're a high-skilled team and you're very good, you're going to be good no matter what. And I'm not saying the Panthers aren't good, but they were on a heater. And when you leave the heater and you sit down for a bit, it's hard to get back up and get back on it. And so I feel like the 10-day layoff is a real issue for the Panthers. So let's hope that getting a couple of games, they can work out the kinks, the frustrations can get worked out, and going back to South Florida, they can get back to playing the game that got them here.
Well, and I'm watching this from 30,000 feet. I don't work for the Florida Panthers, so I don't need to be their mouthpiece or defender. I don't. We got some good comments have come in here from our viewers. Nelson Hackowitz says, to sum up the Stanley Cup Final in the most Vegas way possible, Florida's wild card is showing. That's a good one. Evan Charbonneau in Manitoba, who might be Canada's biggest Florida Panthers fan, writes in, he says, the Cats are coming back, Rod. Book it. Refs weren't the reason for the ass-kicking, but we'll be back in Game 3. I saw my guy, Serena refers to him as my boyfriend, Mike Johnson on the NHL Network, guaranteeing there would be a Game 5 back in Vegas. So we're at least looking for a split here in Sunrise come Thursday, and I guess this will be up to Paul Maurice. That's why he gets paid so much money to be the head coach, to inject some belief in to his team. But I said this, I really firmly believe this, Darren. There is this wave in life, the crest of a wave. And Florida was riding a wave. And I just wonder if that wave is just tuckered out. Because they're not as good as Vegas. We all know they're not as good as Vegas. And Vegas, their people were telling me they're still pissed off from 2018. You see, you need to learn to lose before you learn to win. And with Kelly McCrimmon in charge of the Golden Knights, I've been saying this since day one over there. Get used to it. The Golden Knights are always going to be in contention as long as Kelly McCrimmon is running the show. Will he break some rules? Yes. But if that's your team, you don't care. Did the Patriots break the rules on the way to winning 6 Super Bowls? Yes. Do people in Boston care? No. And Florida's going to be good for a long time, too. But it's going to be tough coming back from 0-2 down. And I was going to put on social media, Darren, if you hear anybody say you're not in trouble till you lose at home, slap them. But then I thought I would get in trouble for advocating violence. I'm like, I will just shut up. B. Henderson writes in from Winnipeg and says, free lap dances for life. Vegas players have all the incentive they need. I heard about that. And actually, quite interestingly, a guy that writes a column on my website, Mike Stackhouse, in his weekend column said, how come that's okay? But that kind of stuff was frowned upon. He goes, interesting how society picks and chooses what's okay to talk about and what isn't. Do you have any thoughts before we move on, Moose, on the Stanley Cup Final?
Yeah, I mean, you talked about good Bob and bad Bob before, too. With Bob, they need him to come up with some big saves while they find their way, too. So see if he gets back into the series and starts playing at a level that we're used to seeing here in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So it'll be fun. Day off, go back to Florida, and looking forward to seeing this series resume.
Can't stop what you can't see. Wasn't Bob's fault. Paul Maurice was extolling his virtues last night. Point 1B, Cole Caulfield says he called his mother shortly after signing a lucrative contract extension with the Montreal Canadiens. That will mean a lot to his whole family. The 22-year-old who scored 26 goals last year signed an 8-year, $62.8 million contract extension with the Montreal Canadiens. Yesterday, Caulfield told reporters that the amount is more than he could have dreamt of as a kid playing hockey in Wisconsin. Happy for him. Seems like a great kid. And I kind of miss our time in Montreal 2 years ago. We were at the Stanley Cup Final there. That was just so much fun. It is a lot of fun when a Canadian team is in the Stanley Cup Final. But it seems to me, and I haven't seen any ratings yet, but Canada is very much into this Stanley Cup Final too. And I can't wait for a Thursday night to be at Game 3 because it'll be the first time in my life I will have had the opportunity to attend a Stanley Cup Final game. I can't wait. Speaking of Stanley Cups, I got to give Serena credit for this. She came up with a poll question today for Key Auto Group. The all-new Sportage remains innovation in motion, an urban SUV design with all the comforts for your next adventure. Order yours today at KeyYorktonKia.com or by calling 306-783-2772. The 2023 Kia Sportage, movement that inspires. Yes, we're talking hockey today. Trust me, we got CFL in the quick six, NFL, NHL coaching, NBA Finals. Blue Jays spanked last night. But the poll question today is, who's the best player to not win a Stanley Cup? She came up with the idea of the question. She didn't come up with all the participants in the poll. But the guys that we did come up with, and Darren was involved in this, and producer Clark, we got Marcel Dionne, Jerome McGinley, and I believe it was you, Darren, that came up with Joe Thornton. But he's the guy that was getting passed around at the end of his career, just like those other guys, especially Iggy. And for me, it's Marcel Dionne. None of you on our staff and a lot of the people in the chat even know who Marcel Dionne is. But a lot of our television viewers across North America, where we own the 55-plus age demographic, know Marcel Dionne is the winner of this going away. And we'll ask Bernie Nicholls about it next hour because he played with Marcel Dionne in L.A. 500-goal club. Mind you, Iggy's in the 500-goal club too, but Marcel didn't really chase the Stanley Cup around the end of his career. He's a little more dignified about it than Iggy was. But anyways, my vote's Marcel Dionne. Who's yours?
Mine will be for Iginla because that's who I grew up watching, and he was one of those players I always thought, deserved to win a cup from how he conducted himself on the ice, and he was so good for that Calgary Flames organization. But I was looking up to the lists and who we might have omitted. You got Joe Thornton on there. Patrick Marleau's another name of a guy that we all, I think, wish had won a Stanley Cup. Adam Oates, Matt Sundin,
Eric Lindros.
Eric Lindros, Pavel Bure. There's a lot of really good players that never got to hoist the Stanley Cup.
John Ohm says Dale Hawerchuk. John Ohm says Dale Hawerchuk should have consideration. He's a great one.
Yeah.
For the Jets and the Sabres. Evan in Manitoba, the Panthers fan, says it's Jerome McGinley, and it's not even close. John Kirby writes in from Edmonton, John in Edmonton. He says, ratings are down on TSN for the Memorial Cup. Hey, John, aren't you just the bringer of the poo-poo news? Stop peeing on our toes. You go outside, come back in when you have more positive things to say. Stop bringing us all the bad news, okay, John? When we come back, we'll get into everything else. But I would think anybody my age and older, and trust me, I do not mind. I am now less than 5 years from being eligible to move into a age-restricted community here in South Florida. You don't understand what goes along with that. Far cheaper housing, far cheaper buffet. I feel like we're going to own the pickleball court. So, yeah. Don't bother me at all. We'll be right back. It is the RP Show. We are live on the television, WQEE Radio, Game Plus TV, podcast, and streaming.
Head to youtube.com/The Rod Pedersen Show now. You gotta subscribe. Click the subscribe button for all the content you may have missed.
Woody's RV World presents the Summer Football Road Trip, hosted by The Rod Pedersen Show and Engelheim. Tickets now available at rodpedersen.com. Charter transport, accommodations at the beautiful Hotel Clique, June 23rd to 25th. All the details at rodpedersen.com.
Canadian Centre for Men and Families Alberta supports men through relationship turmoil and breakdown. Men face the realities of relationship breakdown in a way that is unique. These men need a safe place to belong and have meaningful conversations that help equip them to create a better future for themselves and their families. CCMF Alberta programs responsibly address the results of trauma on men's mental health. CCMF Alberta, because children need their fathers too.
Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
I'm Bridget Lacquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult, because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
Here's how your business can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show. All you have to do is contact us, and we will tell you all about the dynamic and exciting marketing opportunities we have, utilizing a fully integrated 360-degree multi-platform. Imagine your business seen and heard across Canada on Game Plus TV and around the world on the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. You will use one of the most overused expressions in sports. You gotta be kidding me. Get your business involved. Contact the Rod Pedersen Show today.
It's empty today. It was the largest crowd in Las Vegas Monday night since 2017. Watching the Golden Knights dismantle the Florida Panthers 7-2 to go up 2 games to none. So we got people just checking in now. Thanks for joining us. Start spreading the news. The RP Show's live with episode number 1014. Darren Moose DuPont is with us from the NHL's steamy Bermuda Triangle. It was Darren's idea to create a show on multiple platforms, and we're on 4 of them: television, Game Plus, radio, WQEE, podcast, and streaming. So however you're enjoying the show, we appreciate it. And just before I jump back into the quick 6, some of the topics here today. Well, the poll question for Key Auto Group is, who's the best player never to win a Stanley Cup? We came up with Marcel Dion, Jerome McGinley, Joe Thornton, or other. It was Serena's idea. She'll be on the show tomorrow when we're live from the Beach House for a special Stanley Cup edition. And Iggy's running away with it, by the way, but Nelson, our VP of Sim Events, writes in and says, you look at some of the names that have never won a cup, and McGinley might not make the top 50 when you look big picture. Cam Neely, Gilbert Perreault, Pat LaFontaine, Dale Howardchuk, Adam Oates. There are many. And we'll have one of the guys, Bill Lindsay, on the program tomorrow, the Panthers radio color guy. I've just opened the text line, and this is a whole other demographic of people watching the show. Darren, Wilf in Steinbach, Manitoba, watching on Game Plus TV, where we're channel 1190 on Bell MTS cable, says, hi, Rod and Moose. The Panthers are out of gas. Reffing looks like they are ignoring infractions on Tkachuk and calling everything he does. I feel like Wilf has no dog in the fight, but I feel also that Matthew Tkachuk deserves everything that he's getting. He's reverted back to the pissy Matthew Tkachuk. That's what I think. What do you think, Darren?
Yeah, I mean, this is the game 101. You know, people want to classify this as game management. It could be. But, you know, Tkachuk, all the things like the after whistle shots in the face and things like that, they're catching up with him now. And when you have a reputation like that, you do not get the benefit of the doubt. So when Matthew Tkachuk is, buzzing around Aiden Hill in the Vegas Golden Knights net, giving him a little shot, well, you put yourself there. So the cross-check into the net, the slash from the goalie, we're not calling that because you've got yourself in this situation. Get yourself out of it, And we want to look at each little individual thing like the slash from the goalie and say, well, that should be slashing. But we don't want to look at what happened. Well, you got to look at the whole situation. And he went into the net. There was no reason to be right there with the goaltender. And, yeah, you're right. It's catching up with him a little bit right now.
There's a lot of people here, South Florida, complaining about the officiating with regards to their Panthers being down 0-2. And I'm like, sorry, guys, I can't buy it. I don't want to argue with you, but I've watched the games, and the Panthers deserve to be where they are. So we'll see if they turn it around come Thursday. From Bill in Brantford. Bill, thanks for checking in. He says Gilbert Perreault, who was 1/3 of the French connection line with the Buffalo Sabres. Rick Sawatsky in Martinsville, Sask, says the same thing. Gilbert Perreault. And Brian, checking in from Beausejour, Manitoba, says, good day, RP squad. Enjoying Florida-type temperatures in southern Manitoba. Low 30s. That's Celsius for our American friends. With humidity in the high 30s. Oh, he says, I'm recording the show for watching later in the evening as I take in the great outdoor weather while we can. Have a great broadcast. Well, whatever you're enjoying this program, Brian, thanks for making us part of your day. Okay, well, back on point here. Had enough viewer questions for a minute or two, Moose. So moving on to point 2 only. Corey Julks hit his first career Grand Slam, and the Houston Astros used a season-high 19 hits to whip the host Toronto Blue Jays 11-4 on Monday. The Astros won for the 8th time in 11 games. Alejandro Kirk and Dalton Varsho hit solo shots for Toronto as they had their 4-game win streak halted, and Jays starter Alek Manoah failed to get out of the first inning in his 7th straight losing decision. Our friend in Saskatoon who goes by the Twitter handle Bulls Club in Saskatoon is saying there's nothing wrong with Alek Manoah that sending him to Buffalo won't fix. Why he's still up in the majors, I don't know, but he's got to go down. I agree with Bulls Club. Point 3, the Miami Heat are making a statement in the playoff comeback department when facing a deficit of at least 12 points or more this postseason. The Heat are 7-6. Latest comeback came in Game 2 of the NBA Finals Sunday. They came back from 15 points down and won 111-108 to tie up the NBA Finals against Denver. 1-1. Game 3 coming your way here from Miami on Wednesday night. I won't be there. Into some fun stuff, Moose. Some sizzle, some fake news. This isn't even fake news, but it's drama. For the Canadian Football League fans, I'm reading from 3downnation.com. It seemed like a match made in heaven when Jonathan Kongbo signed with his hometown BC Lions, but their brief marriage ended in a quick and messy divorce. Kongbo was traded to the Hamilton Tiger Cats Monday in exchange for a conditional pick in the 2024 CFL draft. It was a surprising move, given that he had signed with the team only 2 weeks prior and played in the club's preseason finale on June 1st. I believe he's a former Denver Bronco. Does that sound right, Clark? He follows us on Twitter, so clearly he's a smart guy. Our show account. So anyways, the drama started after TSN's Farhan Lalji tweeted that Kongbo was, quote, not a fit in BC's locker room. Kongbo fired back with a message on Twitter that was seen over 200,000 times within 4 hours of its publication. And he said, not a fit? Because I called out star players not showing up for practice and guys not wanting to work out? Culture matters. It's called pro football for a reason. But wait, there's more. BC receiver Keon Hatcher replied to Kongbo's message and accused him of quitting on the team after receiving a lack of reps in a crowded defensive end rotation. Okay. I see that it's got a lot of reaction everywhere. 3 Downs picked it up. I don't know what other networks have. I was alerted to it somehow or another. I guess because I follow Farhan. And we had viewers yesterday writing in going, Rod, why would they trade Kongbo? And if you recall, I said, how the hell would I know? Well, now we know. My grand summation, and in consultation with my advisors, the voice that I got in my head was, this is a tempest in the teapot that'll be forgotten by the very latest next week, probably by tomorrow. And it's players now that have a voice on social media that never really did before, so whatever. The guy, Farhan's probably right. It's not a fit. He didn't want to be there. They clearly don't want him, so they trade him. Let's move on. I'm not sure it's that open and shut, though. That's how I see it. Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, similarly, when we see Hatcher right back on social, Brian Burnham put a message on social, there's clearly a divide in that locker room, and that's a problem. And so if you have a fit, whether, one guy's right or not, when there's tension in a locker room and you haven't even started the season, you got to clean that up. And I think the BC Lions just made a quick move to say, look, there's a problem. So no one player is bigger than the team. You're gone. So he's out. The big question is, we thought you cut Sean Lemon to make room for Kongbo. We thought Sean Lemon, the nominee for outstanding defensive player, coming off a pretty good year, he was expendable for this move. Now you're getting rid of him. You've just now lost two great players, and how are you going to fill that gap? Is Sean Lemon on his way back to BC now? So a lot of questions that still need to be answered, but he'll now go to what looks like a stacked defensive unit in Hamilton and probably thrive there, and it's hopefully good for both teams.
More drama than an episode of This Is Us. Do you remember way back when we started this show? Like, I would have said more drama than an episode of Dallas, but a lot of our audience doesn't even know what the hell that is. I remember Joe Lazito way back in year one. Remember when I said, we're about 2 months into this show. We're now in year 5, but back then I remember saying, should I be bringing up these references because I feel really old? People don't even understand what I'm saying. You sure the hell don't. Have you ever watched an episode of Dallas, Darren? Yes or no?
No.
Right. I brought up MASH the other day to the Golden Girl here.
I've seen MASH.
MASH. I didn't ask you about MASH. I asked you about Dallas. I brought up MASH to her. And I said, what do you think about, you watch MASH? She goes, I'm not 100. So I literally was, I'm serious. I was ready to, at that time, back in year 1, to just fold it up and go, I'm done, I'm out. It's okay, it's okay. I'm past my prime, it's over. It's okay. Let somebody younger sit in the chair. And Joe Lazito wrote in from New York, and he goes, no. Your viewpoints and references are vintage. They make us all feel good. Oh, okay. Is that what it is? So to the comments, how about you, Ryan O'Radio? Do you have any thoughts on this? Running the board in Atlanta. Anyways, Andrew Tonner in our audience. He's watching on streaming, writes in. Oh, where the heck did it go? Oh, it's Jeff the Stamps fan. He says, on the penultimate eve of BC Lions opener, they happen to have a culture problem. I think that's just Jeff the Stamps fan trying to stir it up. Because I don't think they do have a culture problem. They're getting rid of a guy that they feel is a problem. From everything that I see in BC and knowing their head coach and their general manager very well, Rick Campbell and Neil McAvoy, they don't play. Everything that I see in BC is very positive. And the owner, obviously, Amar Doman, is, sharper than the edge of town. So when there's hey, you got to admire the fact that they don't let something like this fester. Yeah, hey, we got a problem. Yeah. Nip it in the bud. You're gone. Maybe Jonathan Kongbo is going to the Hall of Fame, but the Lions and him aren't a fit. The more I think about this and talk about it, Farhan was right. And I don't know how or why this came up, but Andrew Tonner says, if you want Rod to rant, all you need to do is mention anything negative about Chris Jones or Roy Shivers. And John has this, unfortunately, incorrect. He says, it's about himself. He goes, Roy Shivers, I love. Chris Jones, not so much. I got that backwards. Chris Jones, I love. Roy Shivers, not so much. And that's a story for another time. And by the way, we are only, we're 4 points in. We got 10 to go. But I will tell some shiver stories maybe later today. I don't know. But we started out getting along great. And by the end, we hated each other. It happens a lot. Maybe it's a me thing. I don't know.
Maybe.
But, yeah. Oh, we got a lot of comments coming in here. From Jake Hughes from the Hughes Sports Podcast. As Hamilton and BC, wouldn't you want to sort of build this up for the August meetup? Create tension for the fan base? Maybe they will. I don't know. And what did John Kirby in Edmonton, I can't find it here now because there's so many comments have come in today, but it was regarding the crowd for Sunday's game between Saskatchewan and Edmonton in Edmonton. Basically said, thank you, Rider fans, for coming and making it a huge crowd. I'm sorry, I can't find it. Before we break, and we'll bring Moose back next hour, where's the tailgaters going to be at? Because Kevin, the medium, and I are going to be there. And maybe we'll even throw our own tailgate. I don't know. Darren, you and I got a lot to discuss later on the air. But I'm thinking, are we going to join Elks tailgaters, Rider tailgaters, have our own tailgate? I'm not totally sure, but I'm feeling like this is something that we need to do. So, yeah, I want to mull that over with you next hour. And, of course, Kevin, the medium. Oh, and John Ohm says, you and Roy Shivers ever patch it up, Rod? Well, I don't think so. Ask him. Last time I called him, he hung up on me. From Henderson, Nevada, which I thought was very immature of him. Okay, Moose, we'll see you. Coming up next,
okay,
Jamie Thomas from 680 from CJOB 68, Manitoba's information superstation. Winnipeg Jets radio colorman Jamie Thomas is next. We're live on Game Plus TV. Bell MTS Cable in Manitoba, channel 1190. Also, WQEE Radio, podcast, and streaming.
Head to youtube.com/The Rod Pedersen Show now. You gotta subscribe. Click the subscribe button for all the content you may have missed.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
We're all capable of doing more. More speed, more reps, more commitment to getting every detail perfect. And that's why it's important we never miss a donation appointment. Blood and plasma donors are needed every day in Canada to support thousands of patients that rely on Canada's lifeline. We're asking you to join the Hockey Gives Blood Partners for Life team. Join today by downloading the Give Blood app or book online at blood.ca/HGB.
Does this look familiar? Your fans deserve an incredible arena experience. It's time for an upgrade. Stunning graphics. Revenue opportunities are just the beginning with our in-venue display systems and scoring technology. Let us help you find the best solution for your facility. EDG. always delivering the best fan experience.
Gotta hit the beat. Gotta hit the beat. Gotta hit
Download Dark Horse Bets today.
I gotta hit the beat.
As quiet as a church on Thursday, T-Mobile Arena, but it was rocking last night. The Golden Knights manhandling the Florida Panthers 7-2. The now up 2-0 coming back here to Sunrise for Thursday night's Game 3. Will the series turn? That's a good place to start with our next guest, Jamie Thomas from CJOB, Winnipeg Jets radio color guy. We'll get into the Jets in a second, JT, but I got to ask your take on this series. It's been pretty much outright domination by the Golden Knights. Do you see that continuing, or Vegas making this thing a series beginning Thursday?
Yeah, I don't think Florida goes away easily, Rod, considering how well they played and answered the bell throughout the playoffs. Clearly, the discipline has become an issue for Florida through the first 2 games of the series, and we've seen Vegas throughout. Their power play is lights out. They don't need many opportunities with it to hurt the other team. So Florida's no different than the other 3 teams Vegas has already beat. If you give them opportunities, you're not going to play a disciplined style of game, then you're going to get burned by it. So I just don't. After this, I think Paul Maurice and the coaching staff will address the players and figure this out. But I don't think Florida's going away easily at all, considering how much they've scratched and clawed to get into the playoffs and how tough and an out they've been throughout the Stanley Cup playoffs so far. Right now, they're not going away easily at all. So I mean, we're not going to sit there and say this is the most critical game at all, because it's so obvious. Game 3 will tell a big story of how this series is going to shake down for sure.
How much are Winnipeggers and Manitobans following it, A, and B, especially given since the Manitoba connection with the Golden Knights?
Yeah, I think there's genuine interest in this whole thing. And of course, I mean, some people may say, the Jets will feel a little bit better as an organization because they lost to a team that eventually got to the Stanley Cup Final and very well could win the Stanley Cup at this point. But I don't know. I think there's anybody that likes hockey is going to be watching the Stanley Cup Final right now. And obviously the people that are associated with the Manitobans family and friends are going to be watching as well. And there's no doubt about the Manitoba connection with the Vegas Golden Knights. But I think there's a little bit of interest, but I think there's still that sour taste in the mouths of a lot of people here in Winnipeg about how everything shook down in that first round. And certainly, I think, in my opinion, I'm not speaking for anybody else, I think Game 5 kind of ruined everything else for what I thought was a hard-fought series for the Jets, Rod. Winnipeg loses Game 5 in overtime or by a goal or so. I think everybody would have been fine with the way it was without Josh Morrissey and Mark Scheifele. You can look at that and say how hard it is to go up against the best team in the Western Conference. But for what happened in Game 5, I think people are still a little bit miffed at this point. So they're not so interested in the Stanley Cup Final.
Evan, the Panthers fan, writes in and says, if we can beat the Bruins, we can beat the Golden Knights. Panthers in 6. That's from Evan, the Panthers fan. Are you in the Jets offices, by the way? It looks familiar to me.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Okay.
Yeah, I'm downtown Winnipeg, my friend.
How's this offseason
It's been pretty good.
Aside from shorter than you'd like.
Yeah, no, it's been pretty good. And just the discussions around the team is, it's never boring, Rod. Any NHL city, there's always conversation about what's going on, what's going to happen, what needs to happen, what will really happen is all out there. But I think, weather-wise, it's been fantastic. But I think what Jets fans want to know is what's going to shake down with this hockey club over the next little bit here. The draft is coming up at the end of the month. There's a lot of names on this roster that you're not sure if they're going to be around next year. when September rolls around for training camp. Elliot Friedman reported a little bit on that, and a little earlier this week. So I think people are just in a wait and see mode right now. There's a lot of teams around the National Hockey League and the fan bases that aren't happy with their season ending the way it is. So I don't think Winnipeg's any different.
Yeah, of course. Hey, you brought up the Friedman thing, so he said the Jets are willing to listen to some key pieces, and if I may, they were Scheifele, Hellebuck, and Dubois. I'm sure that got some tongues wagging there in downtown Winnipeg.
I think, where those respective players' contracts are right now, and the way things have gone here, I don't think the Jets have any other choice but to listen on those players. And listen, Mark Scheifele scored 42 goals last year. Connor Hellebuck's value has never been higher as a 3-time Vezina Trophy finalist. And Pierre-Luc Dubois is that 1A or 1B centerman that lots of teams absolutely covet. So whatever their respective situation is with the Winnipeg Jets, you'd be crazy not to listen to offers. It just isn't an offer where the Winnipeg Jets can go out and compete again next season, right? That's the most important thing. And I don't ever want to believe that they're going to blow everything up and start over again when you still have Kyle Connor on a very team-friendly contract. You still have Nikolai Ehlers, Josh Morrissey. That's a pretty good place to start with a decent hockey club that can be competitive. So if you are dealing Mark Scheifele, you're hoping to get some return back where you can immediately compete. And if you're dealing Connor Hellebuck, I sure as heck believe that you would get something of value back. What is the answer, though, in terms of who will be your goaltenders, goaltenders in 23-24? That's the biggest question for me if you are going to indeed deal Connor Hellebuck, because, as I just mentioned moments ago, his value has never been higher. You should be able to get something half decent, but it's a big step, right? It's like that. If you're going to deal Connor Hellebuck, any team, any franchise would have to have an answer or something where they're going to have a plan where you're going to be able to compete with a goaltender or goaltenders the following season when you remove number 37 from your roster.
We have 3 minutes. You're a TV guy. You understand what that means.
Yes.
But I'll say this, looking from the outside at all the dysfunction that it appears is going on, and I don't want to know what's going on inside. I just see what I see. If you had the season you had and got into the playoffs with that, imagine if you got that cleaned up. What's this team capable of, as is?
And I think that's the frustrating part, right? Rod, look at what happened. They scratched and clawed their way to the top of the Western Conference. They had a lot of injuries last year up front, and somehow they found a way to win, right? So, and then, Rick Bowness consistently said, we're going to find out about these guys. We're going to find out when it's, teams start targeting them. They're no longer sneaking up on people. So I think that was the most frustrating part for Rick Bowness, was the response afterwards, the way things shook down, how they ended up going on the bottom half of the Western Conference in terms of playoff spots, and had to fight, tooth and nail to get into the Stanley Cup playoffs in the first place. So I think you could understand, we've seen enough from this core group where you're like, okay, there's a capability of being a top flight hockey team. It's hard for people to digest that the same group will be on the ice in 23-24. I don't think people have the stomach for that in the city. I'm not speaking from an organizational perspective, but it's hard to sell to people that you can do this again with this group, if that's fair to say.
It is, and you do such a great job given your role, and you're one of my favorite guys. You know that. Enjoy the summer as much as you can, JT. I appreciate the time today.
Hey, Rod, it's not going to be boring here for sure. Let's just face that. And it will be very interesting when training camp breaks in September. No question about that. Enjoy the rest of your summer. Hope to talk to you before then.
Good luck. Thank you, buddy. Jamie Thomas, Winnipeg Jets radio color man from CJOB 68, Manitoba's information superstation. I love saying that. We'll be back with Audience Takeover and a sports update right after this. We are live on Game Plus Television, WQEE Radio. We are Atlanta's NHL show, Also podcast and streaming.
Have you subscribed to the Rod Pedersen Show YouTube channel yet? Head to youtube.com/The Rod Pedersen Show now.
Woody's RV World presents the Summer Football Road Trip, hosted by The Rod Pedersen Show and Engelheim. Tickets now available at rodpedersen.com. Charter transport, accommodations at the beautiful Hotel Clique, June 23rd to 25th. All the details at rodpedersen.com.
Canadian Centre for Men and Families Alberta supports men through relationship turmoil and breakdown. Men face the realities of relationship breakdown in a way that is unique. These men need a safe place to belong and have meaningful conversations that help equip them to create a better future for themselves and their families. CCMF Alberta programs responsibly address the results of trauma on men's mental health. CCMF Alberta, because children need their fathers too.
Nestled in the scenic Qu'Appelle Valley, just 20 minutes northwest of Regina, is one of the finest golf courses in all of Saskatchewan, the Deer Valley Golf Club. The clubhouse has a full-service restaurant, and customers can enjoy a casual dining experience with spectacular views of the golf course and valley. A fully stocked golf shop, staffed by PGA of Canada professionals, is equipped to meet all of your golf apparel and equipment needs. Book your tee time, family event, or corporate tournament today at the Deer Valley Golf Club. Call 306-731-1445.
Does this look familiar? Your fans deserve an incredible arena experience. It's time for an upgrade. Stunning graphics. Revenue opportunities are just the beginning with our in-venue display systems and scoring technology. Let us help you find the best solution for your facility. BDG, always delivering the best fan experience.
Smoky in the air, that's a lot of fun. Big time, big time, big time, big time. Big time. Big time.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
They're moving out of there, coming here to South Florida, Stanley Cup. Can they call it moving day? Game 3 goes Thursday night, but I got to stop the presses. Carl Anderton Jr. is watching in Del Mar, Maryland. He's tweeted us, and he says, I got 2 hours in between meetings. I got to check out what Rod Pedersen has to say about my Montreal Alouettes. Oh, boy. Yeah, I'm not going to be on the air on Friday for a Football Friday, so I actually have a few things here that I wanted to get to. Yesterday, Carl, we talked about the betting lines, and Montreal is favored at home Saturday by 1.5 at home to Ottawa. But I will say this, because you asked, the power rankings from 3 Down Nation have come out. They did we all did our power rankings before training camps and preseason. Now, as they've come out of the preseason, and this is week 1 in the Canadian Football League, these are there. 3 downs. I'm not endorsing these. I'm just repeating them. We'll kick it around more next hour. But number 1, Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Number 2, Hamilton Tiger Cats. Number 3, the BC Lions. Number 4, Toronto. 5, Calgary. 6, Sask. 7, Ottawa. 8, Edmonton. And 9, Montreal. Where's that Price is Right horn you were blasting this morning, Clark? Montreal, 9th. Can you find it? Clark. I don't endorse it. I'm just repeating it. I promised a sports update. ESPN reports that the NFL is investigating Indianapolis Colts cornerback and kick returner Isaiah Rodgers For possible gambling violations, Rogers responded to the report on Twitter by saying he has made mistakes. The league suspended 5 players in April, 4 from the Detroit Lions for gambling infractions. We'll talk about that more next hour with Darren. I have that in my notes. The Blue Jays, who were pummeled 11-4 by the visiting Houston Astros Monday night, will be looking to get back into the win column tonight when they play the second game of their 4-game series against the World Series champions. Righty Kevin Gausman goes to the mound for the Jays, while the surging Astros counter with righty Hunter Brown. And Adrian Griffin, who spent the last seasons as a Raptors assistant coach, is getting his first head coaching job in the NBA at the same place where he started out as an assistant. The Milwaukee Bucks announced Monday they have hired Griffin to replace Mike Budenholzer, who was fired last month after the Bucks lost out to the Heat. Sports updates for Landmark Cinemas in theaters June 23rd. The Flash. Worlds collide in The Flash when Barry uses his superpowers to travel back in time in order to change the events of the past. The Flash in Landmark Cinemas June 23rd. What else do we have here? I got a lot of things coming down the pipe, a lot of stuff coming at me here. That Winnipeg Jets thing, that's a hell of a conundrum. And it's going to be interesting when I get back to Canada this weekend. I'll get even more of the hockey buzz and so forth. If you're the Jets owners, they're like, our general manager has built a team that's contended for first place in the Western Conference. The talent's there. Yet, Paul Maurice couldn't coach him. Look what he's doing. Rick Bowness, can he? I mean, he is the coach, but look what happened to him. That is like the biggest catch-22 of all time that I've ever seen in NHL history. By the way, let us know where you are checking in from today on the Progressive Insurance text line, 902-518-3033. We got viewers largely across the Canadian prairies, but as you see, Delmar, Maryland. If you're watching from some obscure place that I wouldn't think of, let us know. Game Plus TV or WQEE Radio if you're listening down there in the Peach State. 902-518-3033, brought to you by Progressive Insurance. And Kelly in Regina has written in about the huge announcement today, hang on, from Live Golf and the PGA. I know this is a couple hours old, and in our world, it's so old news. But this came down, I don't know, what, by 7 a.m. Mountain? The most disruptive year in golf ended today when the PGA Tour and Live agreed to a merger with Saudi Arabia's golf interests. As part of the deal, the sides are dropping all lawsuits involving Live Golf against each other effective immediately. Still to be determined is how players like Brooks Koepka and Dustin Johnson can rejoin the PGA Tour after this year. What about Phil? They don't have a name for this merger yet. But in a statement, PGA Commissioner Jay Monahan said they were going down their path, we were going down ours, and after a lot of introspection, you realize all this tension in the game is not a good thing. Couldn't agree more, but where do we go from here, caller? That and more, including Bernie Nicholls, coming up in hour 2 after this brief pause on Game Plus Television and the KWQEE Radio.
Head to youtube.com/The Rod Pedersen Show now. You gotta subscribe. Click the subscribe button for all the content you may have missed.
Selection, service, price, parts, and knowledge. That's the Woody's RV World difference. With 7 locations in Western Canada, there's always one nearby. Visit us today or at woodysrv.com. If adventure awaits, Woody's RV World is with you all the way.
Is it time to take your event online? Bring it to IKS Live. We've got a fully customized virtual event platform with remote guest support for your next fundraiser, talk show, conference, performance, and more. IKS Live offers live streaming to Facebook Live and YouTube and pre-recorded capabilities, both in our studio with green screen available and on location with pre-production and post-production services. Visit us at ikslive.ca.
Canadian Centre for Men and Families Alberta supports men through relationship turmoil and breakdown. Men face the realities of relationship breakdown in a way that is unique. These men need a safe place to belong and have meaningful conversations that help equip them to create a better future for themselves and their families. CCMF Alberta programs responsibly address the results of trauma on men's mental health. CCMF Alberta, because children need their fathers too.
I gotta hit the beat. I gotta hit the beat. Gotta hit
Download Dark Horse Bets today.
I gotta hit the beat.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
One night in Edmonton, we were out on the town, and there was a guy by the name of Bain Norrie.
How about that?
Bain says, "I'd ever tell you guys about the night I was out with Rolling Stones?" And I'm like, "Come on, what was Mick Jagger like?" And he's like, "Well, no, Mick Jagger and Keith Richards weren't there. It was the rest of the band." And I hit the floor. "You weren't with the Rolling Stones then, Bain."
Keith Richards and Mick Jagger are the Rolling Stones.
Exactly.
This is the Rod Pedersen Show.
Yes, it is. Hi, everybody, and I can guarantee you're going to love hour 2 of today's episode, number 1014 of your favorite daytime show here on Game Plus Television and WQEE Radio. Maybe you're following us on podcast or streaming, and we appreciate you for doing so. We have Darren Moose DuPont joining us. He is in the NHL's Bermuda Triangle. We've got a long ways to go and a short time to get there, Darren. For those that don't know, we covered today's breaking news already that the PGA Tour and Live Golf are joining. We opened the show with that. We're just now getting messages on it. We're not the golf show. I appreciate you, but we covered it earlier, as well as, of course, Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final last night. Vegas is up 2-0. And 2 wins away from winning the Stanley Cup. They've pulverized the Florida Panthers now. What are the score? 12-4 in the opening 2 games. Game 3 here, Sunrise, Thursday night. We'll see if they can turn that around. Blue Jays had a 4-game win streak, snapped at home to Houston last night. We talked a lot of CFL stuff last hour. We have more things to get to, including this Indianapolis Colts gambling situation. Darren, I would like to get your take on that. Mark Zosel writes in on the Progressive Insurance text line 902-518-3033. He says, "Good day, Rod. Checking in from Melfort, Saskatchewan. Go Knights. Hashtag Vegas born," where they do the Melfort Shuffle. Mark, can you please tell me who's the most famous person from Melfort, Saskatchewan? It's driving me nuts, but there's a famous hockey player from there. Why is it not? Well, Grant Jennings, for one. And you know Grant. Darren, you met him at the Centennial Cup last year. Won a couple Stanley Cups with the Pittsburgh Penguins, but there are more. Hey, what have you been doing for the last 20 minutes? Tell me something. Did you learn anything? What have you been doing?
Yeah, I've been working the phones. No, it's been good. And some sunshine, listening a little bit from our boy Jamie Thomas, and yeah, that's what I've been up to for 20 minutes.
Okay, cool. Okay, thank you. Not that I'm checking up on you. I just thought people would like to know, you know? Because I don't really care what you do with your spare time. Yeah. When I said that they're going to love this, it is the Rod Pedersen Show. what does Rod want to talk about? Because that's what Rod will talk about. And we got a lot of new viewers and listeners, right? We have this guy, Rowan, and I don't know if he's tuned in today or not. Doesn't really like football. He's a hockey fan. And he's found our website, rodpedersen.com, and he's been writing in there. And he says, how does a guy that's taken so many wrong turns in his life ended up in such a wonderful destination? And I'm like, isn't that the $64,000 question we would all love to know the answer to? I don't know the answer to that. And by the way, Evan, the Panthers fan, writes in and says, isn't Jaden Schwartz from Melfort? No, he's from Wilcox, Saskatchewan. Try again. Dan in Saskatoon says, isn't Lorne Henning from Melfort? Yes, but I'm talking about somebody relevant, the former head coach of the Minnesota North Stars, Lorne Henning. Somebody from this half century. No offense to Lorne Henning. But anyways, I think about this Jets conundrum. And I want your take. So pay attention, Darren, because I'm very important to know. I'm very curious as to what you're going to say about the Winnipeg Jets situation. Because you saw I was saying the greatest conundrum of all time. You got the general manager who's assembled a team that's top tier in the NHL's Western Conference. Yet two coaches have lost their ever-picking minds trying to coach this group. And if those two can't coach them, Paul Maurice and Rick Bowness, who the hell can? And I wanted to say this. Back to my story. So I want your opinion on the Jets and what you would do if you owned them. Because I don't know. Okay. I don't know the answer. But the viewers were writing in earlier and saying, Rod, have you patched it up with Roy Shivers and so forth, the Hall of Fame general manager, Canadian Football Hall of Fame, former St. Louis Cardinals running back, but he was our GM in Saskatchewan. We started each other getting along, and by the end, we didn't get along, but just happens. These relationships run their course. And I think about what Pomo said. Coaching the Winnipeg Jets made me want to never coach again. And he was on a boat fishing when Bill Zito called him the general manager of the Florida Panthers. And I'm like, dude, I get it. I feel like today is the time to say, being the voice of the Saskatchewan Roughriders made me never want to be the voice of any team ever again. And that's nothing to them. God bless those who have filled my shoes since I left. And here's the reason why. I look at a lot of these play-by-play guys. Jamie Thomas, my God, the guy is the most nimble dancer I've ever seen answering the questions about what the Jets should do, because I couldn't do it. I'm just too much of a heart on the sleeve kind of guy. Because in today's sports, Darren, it's just call the games and shut up. And God knows when I started doing that with the Riders in 1999, we didn't have a talk show, really. We didn't really have the internet. So really all I did was call the games. But over the course of the next 20 years, they gave me a talk show. I'm hosting a television show on province-wide television. Then social media came along, and I was a one-man band. Nobody else was covering that team. I had to do everything. And that's just the way that it is. And I don't know, because I only know one way to do it, and that's all in. And I feel bad for these broadcasters now. And some of them are very close to blowing their top because they're on a plane or a bus. A scoop comes down, and they want to tweet it. They all have Twitter accounts, but they know they probably shouldn't. And if they do, they're going to get fired. And for me, we had the owner of the radio station, Paul Hill, in one ear and the team in the other. And I had so many scoops, obviously, because I'm around the team all the time. But I was literally getting this. You report that, you're dead. And I don't think I think they would have killed me with certain things had I reported it. So I didn't. And then it would end up on TSN that night on SportsCenter. But then I would have Paul Hill, the owner of the radio station, in this ear going, how come we don't have any scoops? You're around the team all the time. How come you don't break any news? How come I always get it from TSN? I'm goodbye.
Yeah.
But some guys do it very well. I just can't. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they do it. So there's my opening hour 2 rant. And yes, I've had offers since to be the voice of the team, but I've never found anything that I liked as well as this. And I like this. And here in South Florida, I've opened up a business. It's going very well. I don't see any reason for anything to change. So I could get your thoughts on that, and probably will. But back to the Winnipeg Jets. What would you do? Because, frankly, I have no idea what the hell you would do if you were the owner of the Winnipeg Jets.
I would blow it up. That's what I would do. And I think it's
define blowing up.
Yeah, I think they need to make some significant roster moves. especially after last year. You know, it's really difficult because in the first half of the year, you see what this group is capable of, right? First class, they're rolling, having success, and then you see what happens in the back half of the year when going well with coach, and you see the bad loss stuff, and then you hear the stuff from the playoffs, and Rick Bowness at the podium, and then there's in the end of the East conferences. You can't have that. Those things have been exchanged publicly. I don't think there's any walking it back. I think you have to, really change the leadership. So that means Scheifele, Wheeler, Hellebuck, they're all on the table in terms of being moved. I think there's a few guys, Kyle Connor you might want to keep. There's a few, Morrissey. There's a few untouchables, but and you've got some great foundations to rebuild this quickly. And it's more of a retool than a rebuild. But I'd be some of your big assets, and I would have major changes in that roster.
Yeah. Clark, are you having significant internet issues with Darren, or is it a me problem? It's a Darren problem. Okay. Is there anything you can do, Moose, to fix that? Extremely choppy.
I will try. Okay. Let me fix it.
Okay, I apologize, by the way, to the family of Lauren Henning, who I'm sure I've met somewhere along the line. Not really that old. 71. And he's from Melfort, Sask, and he did play for the Islanders from 1972 to 1981. And he was indeed the head coach of the Minnesota North Stars from 85 to 87. And then went back to the Islanders for many, many years in assistant, many years. It was disrespectful of me to say that Lauren Henning was not relevant anymore. But they should put a sign up out front of Melfort then and say home of Lauren Henning, but also the home of, as people have written in here and said, including Mark Zosel, who started this. Where's your text? Grant Jennings, as we mentioned, and Derek Boogaard. Thank you, Boogie, the Boogie Man. May he rest in peace. I'll never forget the night that we listed him. And when I say we, let's not forget my 20 seasons with the Regina Pats. And we listed him because our head scout saw Derek Boogaard as a bantam jump in the penalty box and fight, the player's box and fight the entire team. And we listed him. Next stop, NHL. And just one more from John Ohm on that story. He says, no wonder you went off the deep end in Sasky, Rod. Great insight. I just feel like now's the time to tell the story and tell more of those stories. It's time. Our text lines for Progressive Insurance, 902-518-3033, whatever's on your mind. Let us know right now, please. I'm going to read some of the things that we haven't got to yet while we bring the Moose back in. Last hour was a big one. We had the CFL fans checking in. We read power rankings from 3 down. We covered the BC Lions drama. Jonathan Kongbo punted out of there because he wasn't a fit, and he takes umbrage with that. They're saying the culture's bad in BC. I don't agree. The Moose is back with us. Thank you, Moose, for that. It's 1:11 Eastern, by the way. How about that? Right on cue.
Wow.
11:11 Mountain. Yeah. And just in the way of an update, the poll question today for Key Auto Group is, who's the best player to never win a Stanley Cup? It's a long list. But our options that we came up with were Marcel Dion. He's my choice. Did you not say yours is Iggy, or is yours Joe Thornton, or somebody else?
I said Iginla, but I want to change it to Joe Thornton, if I can.
Okay. Man, you must be a real treat with the pollsters. You go into the school gymnasium behind the booth and check the box, and then you could go walk out the gym door. Wait, no. Hang on. Go back in there. You realize you can't do that, right? Do you know that you can't do that? Okay.
I tried.
The poll question is for Key Auto Group. Get a new or pre-owned vehicle that fits you at Key Auto Group. They will treat you right every time, and it's all just a click away. This has been the fun topic of the day. It was Serena's idea. She came up with the poll question. Joe Thornton, Jerome McGinley, Marcel Dion, or other. I voted for Marcel Dion. Darren just said he voted for Thornton. There's many write-in ballots for Gilbert Perreault. Buffalo Sabres, great. Quite a few for him. And the Jets fans in Winnipeg saying Dale Howardchuk. Just in the way of working our way through the topics here, point 5. This is going to sound like it's in Mandarin to a lot of non-hockey fans, our U.S. viewers. The Hershey Bears and Coachella Valley Firebirds will meet Thursday in Game 1 of the American Hockey League's Calder Cup. The Firebirds, affiliated with the NHL Seattle Kraken, edged the Milwaukee Admirals 4-3 Monday night to win the best-of-7 Western Conference Final in 6. Meanwhile, the Hershey Bears, the top club of the Washington Capitals, eliminated the Rochester Americans in 6 games to win the Heat. So it's Hershey versus Coachella Valley. And if I may, even in Canada, the American Hockey League is a rumor. Do you think that will ever change? Do you think that will ever change?
I really don't. Exciting. Follow these teams and the people in it a little bit, but it's not changing. It's not the NHL, and when you're a pro league and you're not the NHL, you're a secondary league. It's, it's just not going to grab the attention of the viewers and of the audience and the general public. It's just not the way it is.
The internet's a little better where Moose is. I think we can keep it, but we'll let the tech guys, the fastest pit crew in the business at IKS, make the call on that. But it's interesting you say that because I'm not totally following it, but I did go to some American Hockey League games this year. But last hour, John in Edmonton wrote in and said ratings are down on TSN for the Memorial Cup. And I'm like, why? I'd rather to not even acknowledge that because all I can say is I'm watching. And I was watching here on the NHL Network. My brother was watching at home, and we were texting back and forth to the degree of, and I think you were watching at the Paralympic gold medal final game. You said you were. I said, the coach of Seattle looks like Ed Scheffner, who's a farmer from our hometown of Milestone, Saskatchewan, whose nickname is Flounder. And my brother's like, yeah, he doesn't look like your typical hockey guy. So I guess my point is, I don't know what it's going to take to get the mainstream watching these leagues. Not my job to do it, but I will tell you that I'll be watching, particularly the Memorial Cup. And I do fear that in Canada, the CFL is going down that road. However, we'll still talk about it. And when we come back, we'll look some more into these Week 1 games, but also some very fun things like Patrick Roy has been ruled out as the next head coach of the New York Rangers. All I can say is I have been talking to the Roy camp. That's all I can say. And something's happening. Something's coming down. I want to talk a bit about that when we come back. The Indianapolis Colts player who's in a lot of trouble for gambling. Tonight's sports scad and more on the Stanley Cup Final. So stick around. We got a lot on the table when we come back. We're live on Game Plus Television, WQEE Radio, podcast, and streaming.
Head to youtube.com/The Rod Pedersen Show now. You gotta subscribe. Click the subscribe button for all the content you may have missed.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
In the scenic Qu'Appelle Valley, just 20 minutes northwest of Regina, is one of the finest golf courses in all of Saskatchewan, the Deer Valley Golf Club. The clubhouse is a full-service restaurant, and customers can enjoy a casual dining experience with spectacular views of the golf course and valley. A fully stocked golf shop staffed by PGA of Canada professionals is equipped to meet all of your golf apparel and equipment needs. Book your tee time, family event, or corporate tournament today at the Deer Valley Golf Club. Call 306-731-1445.
I gotta hit the beat. I gotta hit the beat. Gotta hit the
Download Dark Horse Bets today.
beat. I gotta hit the beat. Gotta slang. Smoky in the air, that's a lot of pine. Big time, big time, big time, big time.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
They are moving out of there. As a matter of fact, they already have. But T-Mobile Arena, very kind to the hometown Golden Knights. They are up 2-0 in the Stanley Cup Final. Game 3 back here in South Florida Thursday night at FLA Live Arena. The Rod Pedersen Show will be there. Thank you very much, NHL. Darren Moose Dupont is with us, and it's interesting. He is in the NHL's Bermuda Triangle. Regarding the Patrick Waugh stuff, and I also got to say, Nelson, our VP of Sim Events, has chimed in on the ratings for television, and they say the Memorial Cup ratings are down. I'd love to see what these NHL ratings are in Canada and the U.S. Have you seen any ratings numbers? Because I have not in either country.
Not yet.
Well,
I haven't seen anything yet.
Well, it's quite interesting because you saw, and her name's escaping me, but the gal from CBS Miami that was doing her stand-up after the game last night on the concourse, and the Golden Knights fan tried to muscle his way into the shot, and she just stiff-armed him, Derrick Henry style. I'm sorry, I can't remember her name. The last I looked, the clip had 6 million views on social media, 6 million on Twitter alone. I want to say it's Sophia, but maybe it's not Sophia. But it's like 6 million. Not that many people watched the game. Samantha Rivera. Thank you. Samantha Rivera from CBS Miami. Now it's up to 8 million, Clark said. That's Super Bowl numbers. That's Super Bowl numbers. And Nelson says, by the way, the networks need to start to include streaming numbers in their broadcast measurement. Until that happens, no TV rating is an accurate depiction of results. I agree. And he said, if I, as a marketer, can tell a client how many times their ad played in a streaming platform, the network surely has access to how many and where people are tuning in from on streaming. Probably. I'm sure they do, but the ratings aren't really my deal. What I know is we're the #1 rated talk show on Game Plus television. That's what I know. But did I have a point? Did I have a point, Darren? Tell me. Was I getting to a point? I can't remember.
I don't know. You started talking about Patrick Waugh.
Well, let's get back on point there. I've told you this a couple times. of all the photos that I've posted from a year and a half and a bit of being here in South Florida, the one that everybody talks about is being on that boat with all those rich guys. And one of those guys was Gil Scott, who's a very close friend of mine. We talk, well, once a week for sure, a lot of times more. He's the agent for Patrick Roy, but he's also the agent for Greg Cronin, who just got hired by Anaheim yesterday. He's the agent for Washington's new coach, Carberry, who the Leafs had. They're the agent for Mitch Love, Bruce Boudreau. And Gil, how I got to know him was he was, for years and years and years, the top agent by a mile in the Canadian Football League. And as you know, Robbie Fry works with him, our close friend. And they've kind of made this move into hockey, and they've done quite well at it. So anyways, I've been talking to Gil on various things. And I guess my point, it's not, some people would call it collusion, and it's not collusion. But that's what Gil used to do with the Canadian Football League. He represented the GMs. He represented the coaches. He represented all the top players. So he just put people wherever he wanted. He should have been the commissioner of the CFL. And now he's snapping up all these hot young coaches in the National Hockey League, and one of those is Patrick Roy, who isn't young. But my point on all, he's 58, but he's great.
Yeah.
And I just saw this news come down on Monday, and I don't know who broke this story, one of the insiders, I'm sure, that Peter Laviolette and John Hines are the only two being considered for the Rangers job, and Patrick Roy will not be considered. And I don't know what's going on there. Because, and again, when I talked to Gil, he said that Patrick was talking to teams, but he wouldn't tell me which teams because, quite frankly, he didn't want to screw it up for Patrick. Right? And he didn't want it, coming out. So these jobs are starting to be snatched up. And we thought this Chris Drury connection, he's the general manager of the Rangers, played with Roy in Colorado. We thought it was a slam dunk, and clearly it's not. And I know I'm on a bit of a monologue here, but when they talk about coaches that can't relate to young players or coaches that can, he just coached a bunch of 16 to 20-year-old boys to a national championship for a second time. Who else can relate to young people better than Patrick Roy? What am I missing?
I know. I feel the same way. But if it's not the Rangers, that leaves Calgary as the only other opening. Unless, Brad Tree living in Toronto doesn't want to
or
keep
the Leafs.
Keefe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's an opening there. But, could Patrick Roy ever go to Toronto? I guess Kent Dryden did. So maybe. But, we're running out of openings here for Patrick Roy.
Well, and furthermore, because I'm fairly respectful of Gil with this regard. I don't want to get anybody into trouble. But I'm at a point now where I'm going to get people and myself in trouble anyways, so I don't even know what to ask or what to say. But Roy made it known, whether it was during Memorial Cup week or before, that he was leaving. This was his last game on Sunday. I thought it was kind of an insider thing. And then I read that he's made it be known that Simone Gagne's taken over the Remparts after Sunday's game. So Roy, he wouldn't have gone somewhere without a job, would he? Would he?
I know, right? Unless he's, prepared to take a year off and wait for something to open up, kind of like Barry Trotz did, right? Took a year and then waited and took the GM job. So maybe.
Well, and by the way, Gil represents Trotz too. Just putting that out there. And then furthermore to the Roy thing, I remember this isn't an entirely new thing. I remember in the 90s, Mike Keenan couldn't get a job, and he said somewhere, if it was in an interview or not, the dangerous thing for me is I can't remember what I heard in a private conversation versus what I read or saw on TV or radio. Do you know what I mean? That can be a problem. Yeah. But I remember Mike Keenan, he was basically exiled to the KHL because he couldn't get hired in the NHL. And he was like, don't teams want to win? And I don't know Mike Keenan personally. You and I both know his cousin Derek Keenan very well, the general manager of the National Lacrosse League Saskatchewan Rush. If he's anything like Derek, he must be a great guy. He's clearly a winner. But it's just, has Patrick Roy been blackballed from the NHL? I'd like to think not, but I guess we're going to find out over the next few weeks.
Yeah, we are. We're going to find out for sure. And the Toronto thing now, the more I sit here thinking about it, maybe it is more intriguing. You know, the way he left Montreal as a player would be the ultimate heel move to come back and coach the Toronto Maple Leafs, wouldn't it? And stick it to the Habs one more time. I don't know where he's at, though, on all of that. I really don't. But he's won a Coach of the Year award. He's shown an ability to relate to young players. I mean, he checks a lot of boxes that you would want in a head coach at the NHL level.
Well, that's why I'm very cognizant of this myself. When you said Dryden went to the Leafs, what did you mean by that? Because he never played for the Leafs. He went to Ottawa as an MG.
He was the president of the Toronto Maple Leafs for a period.
Fair enough. I thought you meant playing. I'm like, I don't remember him going there.
Yeah.
It's a little like Hexy going from the Philadelphia Flyers to the Pittsburgh Penguins. That was never going to work. And I don't even know whether that's right or not. But I really enjoyed that interview yesterday, by the way, producer Clark, with Rob Rossi from the Athletic Pittsburgh. Real beauty, Clark, on that Rob Rossi. We got to get him again. But he said the fans never liked Hextall from day one in Pittsburgh. Who didn't see that coming? Stephen in North Dakota writes in on the Progressive Insurance text line, 902-518-3033. He says, will Rod go farther from Saskatchewan and do the show from Norway with Trent Bruner? And he says, by the way, where is Trent? He's watching on YouTube because he's been writing in. And no, I have never say never. Never's a long time, but I have no interest in leaving North America at all. Quite frankly, I quite like South Florida. As I said earlier on the program, I've opened a business here, and it's going very well. I'm going back to Canada for the summer, and things are very settling down and stabilizing. To pick up and go to Norway, not interested. John Ohm, by the way, says, are we assuming Patrick Roy is making the jump to the NHL? That's the thing. I don't know. And I should check my phone to see if the Roy camp has texted me to say stop talking about it. No, they haven't. And they watch us every day on Rogers Cable. Anybody watching on Rogers, by the way, Game Plus TV, if Rogers is your cable, can you tell us what channel we are there? Because we're channel 1190 on Bell MTS Cable, channel 924 on TELUS, and I believe it's 427 on SaskTel Max. If you're watching in Toronto or Southern Ontario on Game Plus television, what channel is it? Maybe those guys and gals in the Game Plus studio that are operating could tell us that too. And on this rewarded Toronto thing, because just speaking with the Roy people, they said nothing's settled yet. That was coming out of the weekend. And that's very, very evident. I think the Rangers thing caught a lot of people off guard to the degree that it had to be reported. There was not in contention, not in consideration for New York. What was the reaction you got to your tweet suggesting that Roy would go to the Leafs?
It was, predictable. A mix of yes and no, and a lot of what the heck. He could really go to Toronto? But that's somebody in the comments is the one who picked out, well, Ken Dryden did go to Toronto in a management role after he was done playing, so maybe Patrick Roy could too. I'd also like to think, the way that Roy ended his time in Montreal and walked away from that team maybe leaves the door more open, Right? So
you're going to try? Yes, I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm smelling exactly what you're cooking there. I guess when he said, I'll never play for this team again, the team really took that to heart. You will never work for this team again. Certainly he's looking
and
that way.
Screw you, I'm going to go to your rivals in Toronto.
Right, well, and that's the point is, while he's fiery and he's a competitor, Gil Scott would not work with Patrick Roy if he wasn't a good person. He just wouldn't. You're not going to find anybody say anything bad about Patrick Roy as a guy. You're not. And he's a winner. So there's something that I'm just not getting here. And Jeff, the Stamps fan, wrote in and said, is it the Flames? All I was told was he was talking to teams. I wasn't told which one. Because they didn't want to screw it up for Patrick. So, there's one for you. If you're a Flames fan, who would you rather have coach your team? We were all pulling for Mitch Love, and I think we all still are. But would you not rather have Patrick Roy, a guy who's won a Jack Adams trophy, as Coach of the Year in the National Hockey League and then 2 Memorial Cups? Sorry. Mitch could wait a little longer in the American Hockey League. That's what I'm thinking. Who would you hire? I would hire Roy if I was the Calgary Flames. You?
Jeez. I'm probably still picking Mitch Love just because of the success he's had, and I don't want to lose him. You know, I think if another opportunity opens up around the league, mid-season, early season, and he's the top candidate, you risk losing him. So, you know, as much as I'd like Patrick Roy in Calgary, I don't want to lose Mitch Love. So I would probably hire Mitch Love as the coach of the Flames.
Hey, there's no wrong answer here as far as you and I chewing the fat. Do we have Bernie logged in, Clark? Is he good to go? Not yet. No? Okay. A little later on, if we have time, I do want to talk about this report. ESPN reporting that the NFL is investigating Indianapolis Colts cornerback and kick returner Isaiah Rodgers for possible gambling violations. Rodgers responded to the report on Twitter by admitting he has made mistakes. The league suspended 5 players in April, 4 from the Detroit Lions for gambling infractions. And I'll say this because we do have a minute and Bernie hasn't logged in yet. When I'm dealing with the bank or certain things with my business here, which is mental health and addiction recovery coaching, so many people say, God bless you. God bless you. They say it all the time. My chiropractor on Saturday is like, you're a messiah. You're doing God's work. I said, I don't see it any different than you. You're helping people. I'm helping people. What's the difference? But people need to understand with this business, I identified Florida as a sports mecca haven, but also an addiction haven, and it's both. So with this, the guy's got a problem. He's admitted to it. I would be very interested in seeing how the NFL handles this in terms of 3 strikes, because he's got a problem. The guy's got a problem. He's admitted it, right? Why would you throw your career away over a behavior? That's the definition of addiction. All right, Moose, we'll see you in overtime. I feel like we could talk about it later.
Yeah, we can. See ya.
All right. Bernie Nicholls coming up next. It's the RP Show. We are live on Game Plus Television. We are Atlanta's NHL show on WQE Radio, also podcast and streaming.
Head to youtube.com/The Rod Pedersen Show now. You gotta subscribe. Click the subscribe button for all the content you may have missed.
Hi, my name's Logan Stankoven.
And I'm Connor Bedard.
We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB.
I'm Bridget Lacquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
We're all capable of doing more. More speed, more reps, more commitment to getting every detail perfect. And that's why it's important we never miss a donation appointment. Blood and plasma donors are needed every day in Canada to support thousands of patients that rely on Canada's lifeline. We're asking you to join the Hockey Gives Blood Partners for Life team. Join today by downloading the Give Blood app or book online at blood.ca/HGB.
Selection, service, price, parts, and knowledge. That's the Woody's RV World difference. With 7 locations in Western Canada, there's always one nearby. Visit us today or at woodysrv.com. If adventure awaits, Woody's RV World is with you all the way.
Does this look familiar? Your fans deserve an incredible arena experience. It's time for an upgrade. Stunning graphics. Revenue opportunities are just the beginning with our in-venue display systems and scoring technology. Let us help you find the best solution for your facility. EDG, always delivering the best fan experience.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
That was the place to be yesterday, the Vegas Strip. Stanley Cup Final switching here to South Florida for Game 3 on Thursday night. And I'm going to get to that in a second. Our next guest is NHL great Bernie Nicholls, 1,127 games, 1,209 points. And but before we bring in Bernie, we can bring him in now, but I've got to read the breaking news of the day. The most disruptive year in golf is coming to an end. The PGA Tour announcing today they are merging with Live Golf for 2024. Bernie's a golf guy. He hosts the Bernie Nicholls Foundation Golf Tournament. I think a few of them. Bernie, do you have a thought on the PGA Tour Live Golf merging with the news today?
Yeah, I just heard it too. I'm kind of caught, right? Like I'm thinking, do you think they just did that to screw over the Live people because they've paid Dustin Johnson like $200 million and Phil Mickelson $250 million. All these guys, did they pay them that much money and they got it? So now it's like for 1 year they paid all that money out and they probably didn't have to. So I don't know what the deal is. I think Rory will be upset. I think Tiger will be upset. But obviously it has to benefit the PGA somehow. So if it does that, then I'm good with it.
Yeah, me too. And I don't think the Saudis are worried about the money. You know, I think they got enough. I think they're making it over there. By the way, before we do get to the Stanley Cup Final, somebody sent me a photo the other day of an old NHLPA hockey card, which I had, of you in a tuxedo doing a T-stop push up against the camera. Do you remember that day, Bernie? Skating in a tuxedo? What do you remember about that day?
Yeah, that was in New York City with the Rangers. They asked me if I would do that shoot. I'm not even sure what it was for, but it's always fun to do stuff like that, right? So it was good.
Okay, well, I remember I had the card. I love when the NHLPA did that for you players. Now, to the Stanley Cup Final, Vegas is up 2-0. In your opinion, is it over, or do the Panthers come back and make this thing a series?
You know what? They say you're never in trouble in a series until you lose a home game. Florida hasn't lost one yet, but you know, it just seems like it's Vegas's year, right? Like they're so deep, their goaltender's playing great. Bob's had a couple tough games here, even though the goals last night, right? He was screened on 3 of them, and the 4th one was a kind of a breakaway, nice move. So I just think just too deep, and I think it's their time.
Well, that's what I heard. I've talked to guys from both sides, and the Golden Knights guys are saying they're remembering losing in 2018 to Washington, right? That's still burning in them. And it looks like it. I said, you guys look possessed. They're like, we are. Like, they look so dominant, man. Like if you're Florida, what do you got to do to change things fast?
Yeah, they're trying everything, right? They're the most physical team, which is fine. But I think... And their goalie hasn't been their best player. In the last 2 series with Toronto and with Carolina, their defenseman or their goalie was their best player, and they need that right now. Vegas's goalie's playing great. So to me, their goalie has to play a lot better. He has to steal a game for them. And if he does, if he plays the way he played the first two, they got a shot. But I just don't think they're as deep as Vegas.
Here in Florida, they're complaining about the officiating, and I said, guys, I'm cheering for the Panthers, and I can't even go along with that, especially not in Game 2. I think it's been called fairly.
Yeah, you know what? Florida took some dumb penalties, and it cost them. And as a former player, I hate when the referees have anything to do with the game. And I've always said, they can stop that chicken ass shit, cheap shots, this and that. They can stop that, and they should. They should be harder on people. Like the one game, I think Kachuk, or no, maybe it was Bennett. He punched like 3 guys in the head, right? Well, give them 3 minors for that, right? Like penalize them 4 or 5, and that will stop it. And but the referees, they're not dictating the way the game's going to end. The best team's been the best team, and they have been for 2 games. I don't think the referees had any. They haven't decided. I think both times some dumb penalties that have been taken. And like I said, I always love it. No matter who's playing, if I see a guy take a dumb penalty, it doesn't matter if the team I'm cheering for or not. I want the other team to score because you got to be disciplined. And Vegas is disciplined now, and they're the team that seems to want it the most.
I'm with you. They could have called more penalties on Florida. I couldn't agree more. By the way, I asked folks what channel they're watching us on in Southern Ontario. Bill Dalby's watching in Brantford, Ontario, the home of Wayne Gretzky. He says, I get your show on channel 499. Thank you, Bill. I appreciate that for the Rogers cable subscribers. Bernie is the BetRegal NHL ambassador. Our poll question today, Bernie, is, and I'm saying it because I want your take, who's the best player not to win a Stanley Cup? President, company excluded. I've got Marcel Dion, Jerome McGinley, Joe Thornton, and other. And Iggy is running away with it. But I've always kind of said Marcel. Can you tell the young viewers what it was like playing with Marcel?
Yeah, Mars was awesome, right? You know what I say to people, and I'm thinking it's 700. I don't know how many goals he's got, but if you scored that many goals in the NHL, that's ridiculous. I would love to see Mars win it. You know, as a player, you love to see everybody win it. But Jerome, like you said, what a super talented player he was. All the guys you mentioned, right? Big Joe. Joe played a long time, gave his heart and soul to the game. You want to see guys like that succeed. Obviously, not everybody's going to win. I never did as well. So it's tough. You know, Mars is up there, Jerome, but there's a good list for sure.
Yeah, well, once we got going on this, and I think it's a good discussion to have, people said there's more greats that haven't won it than have. Once you start, stacking up the list there. So that's about it. Other than John in Winnipeg wants to know, he's a big Ron Duguay fan. John Ohm, he says, Bernie, do you and Ron Duguay ever get together and play golf or tennis?
You know what? I've done different events with Ron. Ron was at not the one we just had event. We were at the one the year before. And it's funny because I'm not sure exactly why he didn't come. I invited his ex-wife, Kim Alexis, there. Sarah Palin was coming. And then Ron, he bailed completely. So I'm not sure if it's because of the women, why he bailed. I'm not too sure why. But I have played with Ron in a couple different events. I enjoy Ron a lot.
I think you know exactly why he bailed. He's an absolute beauty. And he has an issue sometimes with commitments. But, hey, keeping commitments, that is. But it is what it is. We love him no matter what. Bernie, thanks for the time. Enjoy the hockey, man. Have a great summer.
Thanks, Rod. Appreciate it. Good time to you.
All right. Bernie Nicholls. our NHL ambassador with BetRegal, our official betting partner. Lots to get to when we come back. I want to talk about that gambling issue involving the Colts, DB, but we haven't even talked yet about Connor Bedard beaking Paul Bissonnette last night on the NHL on TNT panel. A lot of people have thoughts on that. We'll be back in a moment on Game Plus Television, WQEE Radio, podcast, and streaming.
Have you subscribed to the Rod Pedersen Show YouTube channel yet? Head to youtube.com/The Rod Pedersen Show now.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Nestled in the scenic Qu'Appelle Valley, just 20 minutes northwest of Regina, is one of the finest golf courses in all of Saskatchewan, the Deer Valley Golf Club. The clubhouse has a full-service restaurant, and customers can enjoy a casual dining experience with spectacular views of the golf course and valley. A fully stocked golf shop, staffed by PGA of Canada professionals, is equipped to meet all of your golf apparel and equipment needs. Book your tee time, family event, or corporate tournament today at the Deer Valley Golf Club. Call 306-731-1445.
Does this look familiar? Your fans deserve an incredible arena experience. It's time for an upgrade. Stunning graphics. Revenue opportunities are just the beginning with our in-venue display systems and scoring technology. Let us help you find the best solution for your facility. EDG, always delivering the best fan experience.
Here's how your business can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show. All you have to do is contact us, and we will tell you all about the dynamic and exciting marketing opportunities we have, utilizing a fully integrated 360-degree multi-platform. Imagine your business seen and heard across Canada on Game Plus TV and around the world on the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. You will use one of the most overused expressions in sports. You gotta be kidding me. Get your business involved. Contact the Rod Pedersen Show today.
All right. Thank you for being a friend. Love it, love it, love it. Great work there, Jordan. Getting those shots from Vegas. Love it. It's overtime, and we got some great comments here. Moose is back from the NHL's Bermuda Triangle, and I want to say from our radio partner, WQEE, Rhino Radio, right? He says, another fantastic RP show. Go Panthers. Ryan, I thank you for that. I thank you for your positivity, and it means so much to me to be on WQEE Radio and be on the air in an NFL market like we are. It means a lot, so I appreciate his support every darn day. And Kevin the Medium writes in, our sales coordinator, he says, great show, but he has to say that. I feel like Ryan doesn't have to say that, but Kevin has to say that. We got a long ways to go, a short time to get there, Darren. I know you're not going to be at the tailgate party in Edmonton on Sunday. And we got a couple days to kick that around a little more. But I said I wanted to talk about Paul Bissonnette getting beaked by Connor Bedard last night. I was alerted to this by your Twitter feed. For those that don't know, that weren't watching, NHL on TNT, the pregame show that got Wayne Gretzky, Paul Bissonnette, Anson Carter. Can't remember who else. Henrik Lundqvist.
Yeah.
Good-looking man. I would. Liam McHughes. And they had Connor Bedard there on the set. And, they said, is this getting to be old hat for you? How does it feel? And he goes, well, it's great being here with some of the greatest players and Biz. I felt like Biz didn't like it. Did you watch the end of the clip?
Yeah, I did. I kind of feel like the same thing. Like maybe he didn't. Like at some point, it's got to get old, being the punchline for being the guy who just rode the pine all the time. It's got to get old.
I don't know. That's a really good question. I should text him.
Yeah.
I don't want to be that guy, but watch your feed. I'll drop some names. How did it feel to get beat by Bedard by a 17-year-old last night?
Yeah.
That's a really good question, man. And I admire Biz so much for a lot of reasons. I mean, he's doing a great job. Got to know him in Arizona when my friend owned the Coyotes, was around him a lot, and he's a really good guy. I don't know how he's keeping this up because I don't know if it was his social media or somewhere. He was at nightclubs doing parties there in Vegas, and why wouldn't he? That's his thing. But I talked to Ricky Regina, when the Pink Whitney tour came through. Biz was banging shots with the people there at New. And they're like, Ricky was like, hey, slow down, Biz. You got to go to Saskatoon and do the same thing tonight. And he's like, I'll be fine. And he was fine.
Yeah.
So he's accommodating everybody. He does a really good job. As we know, Serena's not his biggest fan, but she's hard to impress. But what are you predicting? He's going to snap one day? Just
I don't
walk off
know.
the
At
set?
some point,
How do you see this ending? How do you see this ending?
Like lay off, but it's good. I think it's good for the game. They've been so entertaining, and the Bedard clip is so good for the game. And I got in a rabbit hole last night, and it was that clip of Bedard, and then it was Winter Classic stuff, and I'm like, look, what's killing the game is the cliche stuff. The Winter Classic is supposed to be a big moment in the season. It's supposed to be a celebration of the game. It shouldn't matter. But coaches and players will say, it's just 2 points, just like any other 2 points. It's just 2 points. It's just another game.
Oh, yeah.
Can it not be another game? Can we say this means more? Can we just be open to the fact that, we want to win today more than I want to win tomorrow and this and that? And for a 17-year-old like Bedard, he could have just went there and said, look, I'm grateful to be here. I just want to get drafted. This is just a great moment, blah, 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 blah.
I don't think
he had fun with it.
I don't think anybody had a problem with it but Biz. I think he was the only one. B. Henderson in Manitoba has written in and says, big NHL trade just happened. And I have it here. The Columbus Blue Jackets have acquired defenseman Ivan Provorov from the Philadelphia Flyers as part of a 3-team deal that also includes the LA Kings. According to TSN hockey insider Chris Johnston, the Kings will retain a portion of Provorov's salary in the deal. Chris Johnston adds that the Kings are expected to make an attempt at re-signing pending unrestricted free agent defenseman Vladislav Gavrikov after clearing up cap space with the deal. So there's the trade for those that are into that. From the Game Plus studio, they're paying attention in there, Moose, in downtown Toronto. Jag has written us. He says, hey, Rod, it's Jag from the Game Plus control room. Game Plus channel 535 in Ontario.
Ooh.
How about that? And we got Bill Dalby over here in Brantford saying we're on channel 499. So we're on a lot of channels. We're all out of order. But that's the important thing.
We ain't hard to find.
Is that we're on. As they say, good to be seen anywhere.
Yes.
Yeah. The Progressive Insurance text line's open for the next couple of minutes. 902-518-3033. I have an email that has come from the Canadian Elite Basketball League that says they have set a record for attendance in the opening week, because that's exciting for them, for sure. There's one game tonight. The Vancouver Bandits are home to the Winnipeg Sea Bears. And in Major League Baseball, the Houston Astros are at the Toronto Blue Jays. I call them our startup cousins because they're in year 5, we're in year 5, and what a coinky-dink. I know that we set a record for ratings last week, too. So everything is going great. Moose, the last word is yours. What do you think? The Panthers going to come back and force at least a Game 5? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think Vegas is so good at home. I think the home ice is such a big thing. I think Florida's going to get back into their market, and the fan base is going to be awesome. So I think they'll be fine at home. I really do. I think they'll win 1 or 2 there.
We're going to soak it all in and be live from the Beach House Pompano tomorrow with some NHL guests. The Golden Girl, Serena's going to be on with us too. People have been asking for. She'll be on with her hot takes. It was her poll question today, and it was a gooder. So, yeah, thank you, Moose. Thanks for your contributions. Thank you to the IKS crew, Bernie Nicholls, Jamie Thomas, and, of course, the biggest part, our radio, television, and streaming and podcast audience, because without you, there is no us. We'll see you tomorrow, noon Eastern, on all these platforms on the RP.
Who has more fun than us?